Howdy folks, Maxwell McGee here along with Mark Walton from our UK team, and together we're celebrating the release of the new Mortal Kombat X, aka Mortal Kombat 10 trailer. Mark, I know you and I both watched it and enjoyed it many times over.
Many times.
And I think we're gonna go a couple of rounds of Theory Fighter and just try to figure out how much of this trailer is fact versus fiction.
Absolutely, man.
So the first thing that I want to dive into is the look of it, the presentation. Yeah. Based on what we saw in the trailer, how much of that do you think is going to be how the actual game plays versus just making it look nice for the camera?
You know, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I will eat my own face.
Oh no, you need your face.
I know, but I will eat my own face if that is actual gameplay footage. Okay. There is no way in my mind that that is real-time gameplay.
I mean, something that struck me as interesting is even if it's not like one-to-one exactly how the game's going to look, because I agree with you, I doubt, especially with a lot of those cinematic cutaways.
It was just too smooth, and like, you know, like the X-ray moves, like when they come across, like, they're not going to look that pretty in the real game. I know we're like going from like a last gen to current gen stuff, but it's just, you know, I can't see it making that big a leap.
Now see, that smoothness I think is what's interesting though. Yeah. I'm curious why, if this isn't entirely representative of what the whole game's going to look like, why NetherRealm would put so much emphasis on making it look as smooth as possible and want to start setting that expectation in people's minds. Because if you just say, oh, there's a new Mortal Kombat coming out, people are going to assume like, oh, it's going to be all herky-jerky robot movements.
The Jerko Vision's back. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think one of the things that they mentioned in the press release was that, you know, they're trying for this whole like cinematic feel, right? And for me, it's, you know, aside from the gameplay aspect, it's integrating the story that they had in the game rather than having separate cutscenes and like bookending your fights, and it's just sort of felt a bit tacked on in a way. Now it's going to be like forming a part of the fights. That's what I'm thinking is sort of meant by that seamlessness and that cinematicness that they're talking about. You know, you can see the characters standing off against each other in like the trailer. They look like they're, you know, they're going to kick each other's ass and stuff like that. Imagine that, you know, interspersed in the fights with some dialogue. I could see that happening. Yeah.
So in the press release that I got from Warner Brothers, they did have a note in there about how they're going to let players play as multiple versions of the same character. What do you think Warner Brothers meant by that?
That there'll be different colors.
It's going to be different costumes as far as the eye can see.
I don't know, man. I mean, you know, it's with fighting games traditionally, when they say different versions of the same character, with the exception of maybe Evil Ryu and Ryu, it means that they've got either a skimpier outfit on or a less skimpier outfit on. That's how fighting games work. So, you know, I'm skeptical if it's going to be anything more than that, but the fact that they've mentioned it is like a big deal, perhaps.
I mean, Ultra Street Fighter 4 does have the Edition Select option where you can play as like Ryu from the first vanilla version of the game, or in the arcade update, or in the Ultra version. So I know a lot of people are speculating it could be something like that, but
it's like a retro version of the Sub-Zero and then a more modern one.
It's just going to be the 2D sprite version of Sub-Zero coming.
I don't know, I kind of like that.
I kind of hope it's a little bit more substantial. It's a little bit beefier than just some minor balancing tweaks, things like that. Something I think could be interesting is in the original Marvel vs. Capcom, if you played as Ryu, he had special moves that would transform him and like give him Ken's moveset or Akuma's moveset. It would be kind of neat if they had, like, here's a version of Scorpion who's really good in this particular area but weaker in others, or like, here's a version of Sub-Zero that's good at rushing down, and here's a version of Sub-Zero that's good at, you know, the keep away game, and they sort of like split it up like that.
They could split it up with like special powers, for instance. I mean, like you had the X-ray moves from the original, well, not the original Mortal Kombat, but the last Mortal Kombat. You know, there's going to be some new ones, I would assume. You know, right? It's a new game. They're going to come up with some new X-ray moves. You know, maybe it'll be like Ultra Super Street Fighter 4, where you can select different combos, like when you go into the game, and that could be like the multiple version aspect they're talking about.
Something else that was interesting in that press release was the note about it didn't say explicitly it was going to be always online, but it did say there is a heavy online component that feeds into this sort of larger online metagame. There's some sort of global contest that's going to involve all the Mortal Kombat 10 players. What could that possibly materialize into?
The global contest. Well, you know, that's the storyline in Mortal Kombat, isn't it, effectively? You know, so, you know, the fact that they're tapping into that with, you know, an online aspect, definitely, you know, could be very, very cool.
I mean, at its most basic, I could see it just being like, oh, North America's got 20 Mortal Kombat points this week, and Europe's only got 5.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys better get on them points.
You know, so many games have done that. You know, I'm hoping that it's going to be something more substantial than that. You know, that seems too basic these days. I mean, at the time, that was, you know, wow, that's really, really cool, but it's been done to death, that sort of thing, and I think there's a lot you can do with the Mortal Kombat that doesn't involve just this country's better, you know. We'll see. You know, I think you were mentioning earlier that, you know, does that mean that this is going to be something that's going to be like a free-to-play game?
Right, because a lot of like Namco Bandai and even Killer Instinct have both experimented with a lot of applying different types of free-to-play models to their games, and I would imagine if not Killer Instinct, if Mortal Kombat was sort of going this online heavy route, they probably want to see if they could apply some of that technology to their game as well.
Well, everyone loves money, right?
That's right.
So, you know,
and it makes it easier for people to get into the games that they want to play. Come on.
No, okay, I'm being very cynical. I'm being very cynical there. You're right. I think, you know, free-to-play stuff can be great, and if it's done in the right way. And like you say, you know, if it's this always connected thing. I mean, if you've got the base level, you've got like the leaderboards and stuff. If you're seeing what your friends are doing, getting all that stuff in there at the basics. I don't know. It's tough to kind of just get the sort of the image in my head of how Mortal Kombat is really going to make a compelling online experience outside of just beating the crap out of each other. You know.
All right, folks, so there's still a lot more out there we don't know about Mortal Kombat 10, but I was able to glean a few more things out of that trailer. I've written it up on a piece on the site. Be sure to check that out. Otherwise, Mark and I, we're going to be heading down to E3.
Hell yeah, we are.
Where we're going to see some Mortal Kombat 10 for ourselves, so you guys be sure to stay tuned to that and keep it locked to GameSpot.com for all the latest on MK10.